Alright, time for the DraftPhysics.com video presentation. So, my arguments just keep getting ignored, and so this Leksa guy has made some sort of response video to the per second argument. And I've been over it so many times, and they will not deal with these arguments at all. I mean, I think it's a proven fact that gravity is a time-dependent force, and it's just about how long you're in the gravity will decide how much gravity has affected you. Period. Just the truth. And the truth is, in these circumstances where they say there's a squared amount of energy, they're basically squaring a force for no apparent logical reason, and saying there's a squared amount of the force when no, there's only 2 units of the force, and all the evidence indicates there's only 2 units, not 4 units. There is no explanation for where this magical extra energy comes from. It's clearly not apparent in any physical way, and so I'll go over these simple illustrative arguments. So the gravity one kind of tells you drop something from 1 unit of distance. It spends, you could say, 1 second if we made it that simple. 1 unit of time, you get 1 unit of force. Now, in our circumstance, that means 9.8 meters of velocity is what you'll end up having as a result of what the force does to you. It gives you velocity. That's called acceleration. Now, acceleration isn't anything special. It's just a change in your velocity. And it happens here in the gravity. When you drop it from 4 times the height, you only get 2 units of 9.8. You only have a velocity of 19.6 when you're done falling. You only fall 2 units of time. It's 1 plus 1 should equal 2, and they say it equals 4, because they say per second, whatever that means. It's 9.8 meters per second. It's 9.8 meters per second squared. No, it isn't. There's only 2 9.8s. It's visible right here in your velocity. The fact is you're going 1/2 your speed here, and which makes it possible to illustrate it as a rolling circumstance. Yes, you can travel 4x the distance. If I roll something at twice the velocity, it'll roll twice as far. But it's so obvious that it's only doing 2 times the amount of work. It's 4 times as far. It's only twice the amount of work, though, because clearly I'm only going half the speed here at 3/4 of the distance. So obviously the force isn't extracting the energy evenly over the distance. It's extracting less when you're going fast, and it's extracting more when you're going slow. So it's 2 units of time to go 4 units of distance. You only did 2 units of work. It only consumed 2 units of force. Only 2 units of counter force, if you want to think of it that way, had to be applied. All the facts point to this. There is no per second. There is no force squared event. It doesn't happen in reality. Gravity is a time-dependent force. You acquire it like you acquire a sunburn, by how long you're in the sun. Alright, so we'll play the video in that context once again, where they will evade these arguments and just make up this nonsense about how per second is some sort of rational way to describe anything in the universe. When, no, it isn't. Yeah, it's just nonsense. Absolute redundant, superfluous, junky, silly talk. That you don't apply to any other circumstance in the universe. No other place do you apply this nonsense per second silliness. So I wonder what his response will be. Well, see if there's any other place this nonsense is applied. Let's see. Meters per second is not used anywhere else. Do an online search. Fastest accelerating cars. It's exactly the same argument. I mean, it's seriously, do this. No, I'm not going to do this nonsense. Absolute babble. It's exactly the same force they're fighting. It's friction, you moron. So why don't you do fastest accelerating spaceships and see if you get the same answer. See if you go 4 times the distance when you go twice as fast in space. See when you're in space if you go 4 times the distance when you're going twice as fast. Oh, that's right. That would be impossible. Oh, you're so pathetic. So again, I illustrated this. I've illustrated this rolling argument and compared it to the friction argument so many times. You can't miss that rolling friction and gravity. The only reason why it goes 4 times as far is because the friction is being controlled by gravity. Gravity is pushing the object into the ground. So he can't even talk now. This stupid moron is going to waste people's time with this reading crap. Alright, you will see that the accelerations are often given as velocity and the time needed to reach that velocity. And again, it doesn't really illustrate anything different than the same controlling force. Friction. Let's see. For example, Ferrari 296 GTP can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. Who cares? Did you calculate exactly how much fuel did it use? Did it use 17 times more fuel? Yeah, anyway, using only meters and seconds, this is 0 to 27 meters per second in 2.9 seconds. And how is this interesting? How does this have anything whatsoever to do with demonstrating how it takes 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast? Or 16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast? Or 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast? Where did it prove any of that? Oh, that's right, you didn't. Lying sacks of little shit. Alright, so if a car accelerates from da-da-da, it can calculate the acceleration. I mean, this is just an absolute waste of time. Okay, I think you can get the right value, Gary. You divide 27 by 2.9, you get 9.3. How is this interesting? You would say that the acceleration is 9.3 meters per second. That would be the average acceleration. Again, doesn't mean anything. We don't take averages for 9.8 meters per second. We know it's 9.8 meters per second is the maximum velocity you reach, but you only traveled 4.9. We don't sit there and say, oh, let's take the average acceleration. No, we know that the complete acceleration will be 9.3. We don't really care about the average acceleration. No one calculates the average acceleration because it doesn't mean anything. But here you are being careless with the units. I'm not doing any carelessness. This is important. The units must do what the numbers do. So again, 1 plus 1 equals 4. This is the nonsense he's defending. What an asshole. Let's see, you divide numbers, you have to divide the units. No, you don't have to divide anything called a unit. It's absolute nonsense. The unit is merely telling you a ratio, 9.8 meters per 1 second. You're saying when I go 4 seconds worth, that means the 1 second is now 4 seconds. That's 9.8 and 4. It's not 9.8 and 4. It's 9.8 over 1. And then you can multiply that times 4 seconds. But there's absolutely no reason to square the 1 or to square the 4. Neither one can be rationally squared. There's no reason to square either one of those numbers. Ask a logician if what you're saying is logically consistent, that you can logically defend 1 plus 1 equals 4. That's all you're doing. Talking nonsense. Sorry, I thought it was a video. I didn't know he would just turn into a complete pussy and decide to pull this shit. Ugh. All right. Similarly, let's see if there's nothing here. This is not a rational argument about how it's not a time-dependent force. If you move 10 meters in 5 seconds, your velocity is not 2 meters. It's 2 meters per second. So again, we know you're accelerating. Okay, we know you're at a constant acceleration. It's a constant force that's applied by gravity. And there's absolutely no reason to misunderstand what it's doing. It pushes with a constant force. And all you're talking about is if I'm traveling across the surface, there's a certain amount of time the force will be hitting me. And the fact is I move 3 units of distance in 1 second, and in the second I move just 1. And I'm exposed to the same amount of pushing in that 1 second than I was exposed to in the entire 3. I got the same sunburn in the 3 units of distance that I got in the 1 unit of distance. Those are the facts that you keep ignoring, you cheater, liar, pathetic, weaselly coward with this text crap. Then there's no point, because there's absolutely no way to contrive any other fucking bullshit. What's the other bullshit then? What other information do you need? You've been given the velocity. It's 19 points. So more quote mining. So in his last video, I pointed out how you cowards can't play 5 minutes of a video. I've made 5-minute videos on the subject. You can't play them and respond to the actual points made in the order they're made. Instead, you have to pull them out of context and pretend that you're somehow argued the argument, when no, you didn't pay any attention to it's going half the speed after it travels 3 times the distance. It's going half the speed after it only went 1/4 of the distance. Yeah, you just keep ignoring all the fucking arguments, you pathetic coward. 6, you're saying 19.6, the velocity means somehow I square that number. I square the 9.8 after 1 second. Let's see. No, you don't square the number. So this is just more. 9.8 meters per second squared always is converted into squaring the number of seconds you're in the gravity. That's what it turns into. So again, this is just a pathetic lie. What do you mean you don't square them? If you didn't square the numbers, I wouldn't care, fuckhead. Alright? You're just sitting saying, let's just square nothing. No, of course you're squaring the number in front of the number of seconds. It says seconds, and you put a 4 in front of it for 4 seconds, and then you say, well, that means 16 seconds. You got 16 seconds of gravity, not 4 seconds of gravity. No, we got 4 seconds of gravity. You didn't get 16. You're just making this crap up. I can't believe they'd even say something this stupid. No, you don't square the numbers. What the fuck? Yeah, of course you do. You square the number in front of the unit. Whatever number gets put in front of seconds, you square it. Duh. Oh, God, these people are so goddamn. They're such pieces of weaselly shit. Let's see. The squared s means that you get velocity. You have to multiply the acceleration. So again, what is that? They're both in seconds. Seconds divided by seconds, and they could just convert that into seconds times seconds. So again, it's just nonsense. By the amount of seconds, like this. So it's a squared second against the number of seconds. Well, 1 times 4, or let's just say 1 times 2 in the case described, is 2. But you're saying the 1 is squared, so somehow the 2 is now squared. Instead of just saying, okay, 1 squared is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, so now we're done. But that's not what you're doing. Alright, so this is just such goddamn fucking irrational mush. When an object is falling in Earth's gravity, already proven fact, Okay, it's a time-dependent force. You only get it in units of time. So after 1 second, the velocity is 9.8 meters per second. Right, after 2 seconds, it's 19. There, you're done. You got 2 units of force in 2 units of time. You're done. There's no reason to square anything. Okay, after 2 seconds, the velocity is 9.8 times 2. Yeah, so you're done. What needs to be squared here? What needs to be aggrandized? Nothing. And so on. Well, works, doesn't it? Question mark. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Your equation is saying there's 4 units of energy acquired. Through what process? Through what mechanism? You just conceded there's only 2 units of force, there's only 2 units of velocity increase. What you're already done with your acceleration, you're already done, finished. Where does the 4 come in? Alright, the units match on both sides of the equation. I can't believe how duplicitously dishonest this is. Of course there's nothing I'm disagreeing with here. You haven't squared anything yet, fuckhead. I mean, you lying sack of shit. God damn. I cannot believe any squared function. There's nothing in the falling that shows you any squared function. It falls in 2 seconds. It's 2 units of 9.8. I do 9.8 times 2. The end. I'm done. I've got my mass and my velocity. What the fuck does this have to do with kinetic energy? Absolutely nothing. And the answer is absolutely nothing, question mark. But I thought you have said that meters per second is a scam to defend kinetic energy. Where did you show where you did the squaring thing? You didn't square anything. There's no claim so far of 4 times the force. You just proved it's 2 times the force. Where are you defending the kinetic energy theory here exactly? I just can't. I just can't. I mean, how can you make this kind of a silly argument? I just don't even. I don't know how people are capable of this. Your obligation is to prove it's not a time-dependent force, that it's a distance-dependent force, that somehow falling the 1 unit of time and getting 9.8, and then falling the 3 units of time and getting 9.8. Well, when it fell, 3 units of distance, your obligation is to prove it got 9.8, but it really got 3 times 9.8. That means it got 3 units of 9.8 somehow. That's your obligation. So in the same unit of time, it somehow got extra force that wasn't in its velocity. Somehow velocity isn't giving you the right answer. It's not telling you the truth. That somehow twice the velocity is really 4 times the energy. That's the part you have to defend. And you're clearly evading that defense. Again, nobody says 60 miles per hour. Okay, nobody ever has said it in the history of mankind except me as mocking rhetoric. Because nobody says it. How fast were you? Oh, I was going 60 miles per hour. Let's see. Here you are mixing up velocity with acceleration. It wouldn't matter if I said I was decelerating at 4 miles an hour. I wouldn't say 4 miles an hour per hour. Nobody says that. So again, you're just evading the point made. If the question is how fast are we going, 60 miles per hour would be a simple answer because that's the velocity. And again, as I just pointed out, and as I pointed out in that video, I made the statement that I could describe a deceleration of 4 miles an hour. I'm decelerating at 4 miles an hour. I don't say 4 miles an hour per hour. It's perfectly understood that it's 4 miles per hour. And it can be 10 hours, it could be 400 hours, it could be a half hour, it could be almost any amount of time. It's a rate. It's a rate of acceleration. There's absolutely no reason to square anything. So 60 miles per hour would mean the velocity increased by 60 miles per hour in 1 hour. This would be a very slow acceleration for a car. 60 miles per hour would mean the velocity increased by 60 miles per hour in 1 hour. I don't really understand. That seems perfectly reasonable to me. How is that a slow acceleration? Sorry, you're an idiot. Such a
1 second squared, you don't, or if it's 5 meters per second squared, it doesn't mean that it's 5 meters per 1 second squared. You don't.
Oh, yeah, it means you're putting seconds in the equation twice. So don't tell me it doesn't mean that. That's exactly what you're doing. That's what the square means. There's seconds times seconds. Why would I multiply the same second times the same second again? Why would I do that? There's absolutely no reason to multiply the seconds times the second. Yeah, I mean, there's no case. All right, it's 9.8 per 1 second in the first case. Okay, that's the real ratio, the real formula. So it's a lie to say it's any number of seconds. It's only 9.8 if you have 1 full second. 1. Now, squaring a 1 would be pointless. So obviously the number you're trying to square to force this extra energy is the number of actual seconds. So you're trying to say, okay, it was in the gravity for 2 seconds. You're saying I'm supposed to square the 2 and come up with some sort of 4 number as the energy. Even though it's clear it was only 2 seconds, it's only obvious that the velocity is only doubled, which means it can only be 2 seconds, 2 units of 9.8. So again, you just keep lying about this contrivance, and it's just that. It's just nonsense. Again, it's just such a gross, obvious, contrived manipulation. You're forcing the physics to defend your theory when there's no reasoning to it. There's no logic. It doesn't happen anywhere in the reality. The proof is in the fact that if I roll a ball on a surface, it goes half its velocity after it's traveled 3/4 of the distance, proving, okay, that the friction isn't linear. And you people just keep lying about it. Alright, anyway, let's see what this says. You can use this. You use the seconds twice in the formula. No, you don't. The 1 second, 9.8 meters per 1 second, is a different number than the number of seconds you're in the gravity. Those are two different numbers. There's no reason to say 1 equals 4. There's no point in saying 1 squared is the same as 4 squared. They're obviously different numbers. It's not seconds squared in the first place. It's seconds times a different unit of second, a different number of seconds. It's a 1 times some number of seconds. And you've perverted it, overtly perverted it, and here you are defending the perversion. I mean, it just proves that this isn't about science. This is about religion. Because this is an extraordinary pile of nonsense for you to type and to go to the trouble to make this video to defend something completely irrational. It doesn't have any merit. Zero. Okay, because it's a velocity that you gain, and it is in the amount of time you spend gaining that velocity, right, which is 2 seconds. Why would I square the 2 seconds? Why? Why? Alright, you can gain the same increase in velocity in different amounts of time, so that's the big lie. No, you can't. So what are you talking about? If you're in a 9.8 meter per second force, you are obligated to gain it in those increments. So I don't even know what that is, depending on your acceleration. Well, we know it's a constant force. So again, more baby. This is just, you can't even call it baby talk. It's just so manipulative. It's such a lie. Remember, you need to keep all the units in your calculation. Some more lies about this has something to do with a unit. There's plenty of units in my frickin' drawings. They're units of time, explicitly drawn. There's no missing them. You're the one sitting there keeps insisting that 1 plus 1 equals 4. No, it doesn't. 2 units of force is 2 units of force. That's all it is. Liar. We already have meters per second. Why would we add this extra seconds? Oh, because they have to create fake energy. So this is how you create fake energy. Alright, so here it is. He's just going to redraw the same insane little double fraction that there's absolutely no reason to create in the first place. Zero reason. There's just no reason to sit there and go 9.8 meters over 1 second over a second. No reason. No logic. They never do it anywhere else, as stated. This is not math that's ever used anywhere. This is a 1 second here, and this is who knows how many seconds you're in the force. But that's what the real fractions are. If they put the damn numbers in here, then they would see how ridiculous this statement is. It's 9.8 meters per 1 second, and then you're waiting to find out what you multiply it by, not what you divide it by, but what you multiply it by, which is the number of seconds. This is irrational nonsense. Alright, so this is the increase in the velocity. This is the time needed to gain the increase in velocity. Again, why would you divide by the time? You would multiply by the time. There's absolutely no reason to divide by the time. You do something, I know you do a thing, and then you're saying, well, I do that thing a certain number of times. Why would I divide the number of times into the thing? Why wouldn't I just multiply how many times? How many... If there's 6 beavers, building a dam, why would I say each beaver does 4 feet of dam? I would just say, well, how many feet of dam is it? Well, 6 beavers times 4. I wouldn't divide anything. Alright, he's going to make a statement. In Earth's gravitations, objects gain 9.8 meters per second every second. So again, he's just done the same thing again. It's 9.8 meters every 1 second. Period. This sentence is just absolute crap. It's a silly, stupid, contrived pile of lie. It is 9.8 meters per second. Period. Yes, it can be for 10 seconds, it could be for 1 second. Just depends. But this statement is irrational nonsense. On some other planet, just to waste a second. We're not talking about some other planet. We don't need to change any numbers. Nobody, if aliens came here, they would never say anything as silly as, it's 9.8 meters per second per second. No. It's nonsense. Absolute fucking nonsense. It's superfluous, redundant, and inaccurate. It's 9.8 meters per 1 second for an unknown number of seconds is how it should be stated for any number of seconds. And you're multiplying that, not dividing it. All right. On some other planet, they might gain 9.8 meters every 2 seconds. Right, they have a different ratio. They wouldn't square the 2 and pretend it's 9.8 meters per every 4 seconds. They wouldn't pretend it's some other number. That's why the 2 would be there, is to point out it's 9.8 per 2 seconds. Not any number of seconds. Oh, you're just such an asshole. How do you calculate the acceleration in that case? So you're going to put the numbers in when you're calculating on another planet, but you won't put the numbers in when you're calculating on Earth. So go ahead, put the number of seconds in, 9.8 with a 1 here, and then explain why you did this, second. Go ahead. Put the numbers in and then explain how it's rational. So here he did it again. 9.8 meters per second. That's where you're supposed to put the 2, is here, idiot. And then he says divided by 2 seconds. No, the ratio would be 9.8, and you would change this from a 1 to a 2. The first meter per second is where you would put the 2, you idiot. Oh, he's such a liar. Okay. Again, they use much smash on both sides. So, again, more nonsense. Why would I do that? Again, I've never even seen that notation, frankly. Can you put a third S, a fourth S, a fifth S? I mean, how many S's can you add? You can just add them arbitrarily, as many as I want. Okay, so he's conceding yes. So again, so he thinks that time is dimensional in the first place, which is nonsense. It's clearly linear, past, present, future, blah, blah, blah. There's absolutely no sense to squaring a time. It could never make any rational sense to square a unit of time. Yes, you can. When we divide something by time, the formula tells us how much that thing changes over time. So again, just absolute nonsense. It's 9.8 meters per 1 second. That tells you everything you need to know. Don't need anything else. Just count how many seconds it's in the force, then you know exactly how many units of force it acquired. That's the truth, and you're a fucking pathetic religious kook liar. Okay, more nonsense. Yes, you can. When we divide something by time, the formula tells us how much that time changes over time. M, this is the distance. What? M, this is the distance. No, S. So nothing to change over time. So again, it's per a meter. Okay, it's saying right there, 9.8 meters. It's a specific distance. It's not any distance. And then the S is 1 second. This is the velocity. Change in distance in 1 second. Yes, it's 1 second. Okay. This is the acceleration. So no, this isn't. This is absolute nonsense. There's no difference between velocity and acceleration. Acceleration is a change in velocity. It's made out of velocity. This is probably has no name. Okay, so he's doing it. He's just you know, they're so desperate that he's actually conceding that yes, I will find some contrived reason to say that there would ever be a circumstance where I would say per second, per second, per second, per second. That somehow could make sense. I mean, oh, yes, just the scum on this point. You're just establishing that it's units per second. So again, it would be irrational to attempt to actually multiply or divide an actual unit into some other kind of unit. Okay, a kilogram into a yeah. So let's understand. I mean, I drew all this stuff and he didn't pay any attention to those parts of the video, clearly. It's another unit, heat. I'm not even gonna bother. This isn't relevant. So they changed Newton's formula into 9. Okay, so this is the relevant part. The big lie that this is somehow a rational derivative of Newton's mechanics, where Newton explicitly said, you know, 1 unit of force, 1 unit of velocity, 2 units of force, 2 units of velocity, 3 units of force, 3 units of velocity. That's all there is. There isn't anything else. 0.8 meters over second squared. Whatever the seconds are, right? It's supposed to be over 1 second. So now it's ambiguous how many seconds it is. No. Yeah, so again, it's just a lie. It's clearly supposed to be 9.8 meters per 1 second. That's the ratio. It's not any number of seconds, and it's certainly not a squared 1. So again, it's just more nonsense. 1 squared is 1. Okay, it's not ambiguous at all. Let's say you fall 3 seconds. It's not about the 3 seconds. It's about the 9.8 per 1 second. That's the one you're squaring. What are you saying 1 and 3 are the same number and you can just say 1 squared is the same as 3 squared? I mean, just lie some more. I mean, pathetic. In Earth's gravity, how much velocity you gain? Question mark. I'm not answering any fucking questions, you fucking asshole. So again, this is just more nonsense, right? Where's there anything squared here? Is there anything squared here? No. Is that the math they actually do? No. The energy formula says that I'm supposed to square this number of 3. So their solution is 3 squared. It takes 9 units of force. That I somehow collected 9 units of force. That's their assertion. I only got 3, but, and it's obvious in the velocity. There's only 3 in the velocity. They're saying because my velocity is 3 times larger, I now have 9 times the energy. That's their wacky argument. That's their wacky assertion. You hit the brick wall at 3 times the speed, that somehow you'll be doing 9 times the damage. That's their idiotic, nonsensical, fucktarded assertion. That's the wacky, silly nonsense they're attempting to contrive fucking defenses for. And it's indefensible mush. They will never prove it or show it ever happening. Because it doesn't happen. So what happened to the first ratio? It was 9.8 meters. Now the ratio is gone entirely. There's no ratio here. It's just squaring seconds, whatever seconds are. Let's see. Acceleration is not always the same. What the fuck? So again, we know in this case it is. So what are you making these excuses for? Acceleration is not always referring to Earth's gravitational acceleration. We know in these circumstances that's exactly what we're talking about. There's no other acceleration that does this magnitude your force bullshit anyway. It can have any value. So he has a smiley face. So he's pretending that an explicit ratio that's 9.8 meters to 1 can be any value. No, it can't. Okay. The higher the acceleration, the more velocity you gain in a unit of time. So again, more baby talk. That somehow, if I say I'm going to decelerate at 4 miles per hour, I'm really saying I'm going to decelerate at 16 miles per hour. No, I'm not. It's 4, not 16. They're just pretending that you can sit there and compound the acceleration for absolutely no reason. The acceleration, the deceleration are rates. They're per second, per 1 second. They're a rate. You can't change it to it's automatically 4 units of acceleration when no, it's not. It's per 1 second, not 4 seconds.
Unit.
Well, it doesn't matter. The unit is going to eventually be, the square is eventually going to be applied to the number of those units. Of course, they're squaring how many seconds you're being affected by whatever the force or the cause of the acceleration is. So whatever's causing the acceleration, they're saying you should just square whatever the number of units are. So however many units of acceleration you had, square that number. That's how they contrive the math. That's what they do. 3 equals 9, 4 equals 16, 5 equals 25. 6 equals 32. I mean, huge, giant increases. Or 36. So what's the point? You're going to end up squaring the 2 seconds. I put 2 seconds. I do it for 2 seconds. You're going to say it's 2 seconds squared. When no, it's only 2 seconds. It's only in the gravity 2 seconds. It's not in... I don't know how they could argue this point. It's in the gravity 2 seconds. You got your twice your velocity. And you're just asserting 2 means 4. In the gravity 4 seconds, it's in the gravity 2 seconds. So you're going to change 2 seconds into 4 seconds. Wrong again. Yeah. That's exactly what they do. So again, there's, where's the honesty here? It's exactly what they do. It's exactly what they're doing. 3 seconds is 9 seconds. 4 seconds is 16 seconds. That's all they're doing. Let's see how that logic even work. Well, obviously you can't even type your fucking sentences right. Oh, I mean, just the cowardice of this. The fact that he's making this typing video. Oh, fuck. You fall for 2 seconds. By this logic, you calculate the final velocity like this. Yeah, we already did this, calculating the final velocity. Where's the square come in? So he goes 9.8 meters, and now he has he has it over 2 seconds, right? Is that right? Is it 9.8 meters every 2 seconds? No, it's 9.8 meters every 1 second. So again, it's just such an obvious fucking cheat. I mean, it's just right there in front of you. He put the 2 here. This should be the 1. There's no doubt about it. It's 9.8 meters per 1 second. You change this fraction, and it's now, and again, it should just be multiplied times the number of seconds. And instead said, I'm going to put the 2 under the 9.8 and then square it for no good reason. So, what the fuck? Equals 9.8 meters per 4 seconds squared? I don't even know. I don't even know how anybody reasonable could sit there and look at this shit and say make sense out of it. So 2 seconds squared is the same as 4 seconds squared. I mean, any imbecile can see that can't be true. I don't even know what use this 2.45 meters per second squared would be. What use is that? Amazing. Let's see, we start with acceleration, end up with acceleration, liar, and the longer you fall, the smaller value you get. So does that make any sense? The force is changing the longer you fall. So instead of gravity being a constant force, now it's an inconstant force that somehow knows how to regulate itself based on how far you have fallen. Some kind of crap like that. That can't be right. Your understanding of this unit is completely backwards. Oh, this is just such a lie to say I suggested any of this. So you're just such a liar. Oh, God, I just hate this planet of lying scum. It's not, you're not multiplying the seconds per second. You're multiplying it times a real specific number of seconds. The seconds you're multiplying the 1 times is a number of seconds. How many times did... It's 9.8 meters over 1 second times the number of seconds. I haven't suggested anything else, asshole liar. Ever. Did you do the 9.8? Did you do the 9.8 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds? That's the number you multiply times 1. You don't square anything. Alright, so again, just more nonsense. I don't know how acceleration works. Yeah, I don't know how per second is a rational statement by an intelligent human. The problem is that you have to be constant with the units, consistent, and more bullshit. If you multiply something by a time, for example 2 seconds, you have to keep the seconds with you. So more lies about how I'm not keeping the seconds or something, or I'm breaking seconds. No, you're squaring them for absolutely no rational reason but to defend a religious theory. Such a liar. Well, frankly, if I wrote 9.8 meters squared, okay, everybody would know I'm not squaring some vague unit. I'm squaring the 9.8. So I misspoke. So that's part of the game they play. Yeah, I'm squaring the number of times I'm claiming the 9.8. So yes, obviously I made a mistake there. So this is the games they play. What a cheap little shit this weasel is. Really, if I say the room has a surface area... Oh, fuck you, I'm not even going to read it. Ugh, what a fucking piece of shit. So this is the human garbage that shows up. I mean, what a piece of steaming shit. So, and Dispar, the bigger liar, faker, phony. Excellent clarification. So what was clarified? Where did he take my argument and explain how 19.6 units of velocity really means you got 4 units of force? That's what really happened. In 2 units of time, you got 4 units of force somehow. Somehow the 4 units of force happened. Where did you explain any of that, you fucking lying sack of shit? God damn it. You so suck as a human being. Okay, thank you so very much. I think there is no more way to explain this in a more comprehensive way. I mean, explain what? 1 + 1 = 4. That's what they're rationalizing. They're so desperate. That's what they're attempting to rationalize. And they won't play me saying those words, because they won't be able to respond to those words, because that's all they are doing. Alright. Every one of your responses is the same as I would have written if he hadn't censored me, a White Henry, from applying to his channel. Censored you. Well, here you're making your little shit comments here, aren't you, Whitey? Well done for continuing to get to see the truth. So this is their truth. 1 + 1 = 4 for absolutely no good reason. Per second is a rational thing for a smart person to say. I'm going 60 miles an hour per hour. You need to know that it's every hour per hour, because, you know, saying 60 miles an hour isn't good enough. I need to explain to you that it could be for 10 hours, it could be for 400 hours. And then, if I'm going to, you're mathematically, you want to understand it, well, just assume that, square it. You know, 1 times any number is that number squared. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Let's see what he says here. When I fall for 2 seconds in gravity, I gain 19.6 meters per second. And exactly, where is the example of the squared function in that statement, you retard? You gain 2 units of velocity. Now, why do you think you gained 4 units of force? You only gained 2 units of velocity. Why do you believe you gained 4 units of force? Would you answer that question, you lying sack of weaselly shit? My acceleration is the increase in velocity divided by the time it took. Why would you divide the time it took? Why wouldn't you multiply the times you took? If 1 unit of time equals 1 unit of force, why wouldn't I multiply how many seconds? Why would I divide? Why would I do that? Alright. That's 19 meters per second divided by 2 seconds. Why would I divide by the 2 seconds? Why would that make any sense? Oh, that's right, it wouldn't. Alright, that's 19.8 meters per second. So again, this is just such nonsense. That is typically written as... Oh, yes, how things are typically written. Isn't that... It's just so special. We write per second, which means 1 times the number of seconds as seconds squared, because it makes perfectly good sense to shorten 2 times 3 by saying seconds squared. I mean, you know, one number times a different number, the way to write that conveniently is just to square any number. Yeah, so it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't mean you square the number of seconds. It's just so hilarious. Well, that's the whole story, really. There's no story here. His refusal to state which of these 5 obvious statements he disagrees with is why is a problem. I mean, amazing. I have pointed this out over and over for 2 fucking years. And these liars will say that somehow I haven't answered their counter arguments. You don't have a counter argument. How can 19.6 in terms of velocity, representing 2 units of force, you have 2 units of velocity, it took you 2 units of time. How do you contrive 4 units of energy? Oh, Piro. Oh, it's just so disgusting. The seconds are in there once for velocity and another for acceleration. So they're 2 different. He's pointing out that the seconds are 2 units of 2 different units of time. One of them representing a velocity, one of them representing an acceleration, he says. So he's conceding they're 2 different numbers. 1 second is a different number than the other seconds. And then they think squaring makes sense. 2 different numbers, And you should represent them by saying second squared. Which number are you squaring? The 1 or the 2? Oh, obviously, you squared the 2. We are deep in the core of the fundamental misunderstanding of the universe by Gary. So again, I'll contend you are irrational, loop-de-doo lunatics, and that nothing I have said about gravity is inaccurate, and you despicable cowards cannot possibly explain how I explained anything about gravity incorrectly. You will not explain how it's not a time-dependent force, that it does work exactly like a suntan, or it does work like rain, that's exactly how you collect gravity, you lying sack of shit. You will not explain why you go half the velocity after you've traveled 3/4 of the way down the track. You won't touch these arguments because you're a lying, despicable coward. Oh, you people are so disgusting. Alright, understanding units is the most basic thing and something I tried to explain. Oh, for you, you're just such an asshole. But now he's actually acting like the formula for acceleration isn't straightforward. Per second is not straightforward. It's gibberish, it's controversy, it's absolute baby talk nonsense. You're insulting human dignity by defending it. You're a menace to intelligence on this fucking planet, you piece of scum. And yet another fake theory. Yes, it's completely fake. It's completely contrived. It wasn't even Leibniz's argument. It wasn't even Leibniz's theory. They contrived this nonsense in the 1800s to rationalize a steaming pile of shit. God, I just hate you people. Alright, I just realized the button option bar is sometimes getting in the way if you pause it. Oh well. Yeah, YouTube's really rough. Yeah, the little bar comes on. You gotta move the mouse and then it disappears. Holy shit. God. I just can't believe these people are just such shit. So again, it just, you know, I have made it as short and as simple as it could possibly be. They will not draw it and then explain how 2 units of time, kind of obviously result in 2 units of velocity, but somehow, and even though it does weigh actually 2 units of weight, so it's 2 units of time, 2 units of velocity, it weighs twice as much, and they say you should believe it's 4 times something. There's 4 in here somewhere. 1 + 1 = 4. It's that stupid. And I just, there's nothing to say. This gets more and more. I mean, you're just saying, you know, what do I blame this on? I mean, this is idiocracy, clearly. This is people have just become so stupid and they'll defend anything. They're just so status quo. They're so stuck in their little fucking weaselly boxes of bullshit that they can't admit anything. They can't concede anything. The truth just doesn't matter. It's just propaganda. Defend the propaganda. Defend the institutions. Defend Google. You know, just live your life as a sap and a dupe and a Borgite. Oh, and then watch your movies about how bad it is to be controlled by the Borg when that's all you are. Oh, lying drones. Jihading for your hive of nonsense. Fuck.